in the future. Now, are you guys ready for the topic that we've all been waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks? But when it finally came out, we were kind of really disappointed. UFO Pentagon report.
Is
It's
this,
time.
is this the actual report?
This is the actual report. This is the unclassified version. The New York Post got the classified version early in June, and they released it. And of course, their rhetoric was again very anticlimactic. But with this one, still anticlimactic. So the UAPTF, which is the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, wow, that's a mouthful. The limited amount of high quality reporting on unidentified aerial phenomenon hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature of intent of UAPs. So number one, that's just saying, hey, they're there. We don't even know what their intent is. Okay, so that was the first thing that came out in the report. Second, they're only looking at reports from 2004 to 2021. And that's what they're showing us right here. It's only what was brought up and brought together by the task force. Even though like all these other guys that are UFO fanatics are just like, hey, dude, I've been working on this since the 1900s, like 1990s and stuff. So I don't believe they even got that information from like, I don't know if Area 51 was ever a really big thing and they had UFO stuff there. I doubt the task force for the UAPs ever got their hands on that kind of information of like alien spaceships and whatnot. But as we go on through this report, we're just getting more and more sad. But 144 reports originated, with 80 reports involved observation with multiple sensors. So that's a high point. At least they're admitting that there were sensors and everything when it came to the observation of these UAPs, UFOs, and they're admitting it. So they say in a limited number of incidents, UAP reportedly appeared to exhibit unusual flight characteristics. These observations could be the result of sensor error, spoofing, or observer misperception and require additional rigorous analysis.
BS.
So
it sounds cute.
I mean, that's the thing. Even after all this, they're looking at the patterns, the observational patterns of these UAPs regarding the shape, size, and in particular their propulsion system. They say most of these maneuvers go against physics, and if they were to go as quickly as this and then stop right there, everyone inside would be little mush. Right there, yeah, it's completely defying the laws of physics and momentum. Conservation of energy just doesn't exist for them. So some UAPs appear to remain stationary in wind's loft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speeds without discernible means of propulsion. They might be using antimatter.
Yeah, what that means is that they can't trace like the exhaust coming out the back pipe and say like, hey, here's a heat signature coming from it. That's really, really interesting because all of our technology has a clear indication that heat is being generated, and that's usually what most radars are using. But this one,
does the United States stealth tech do that?
The stealth one, that's a good
question. There should
I believe they fly too high.
There's an expulsion of energy. That's what it is. You can see that with anything, there has to be an expulsion of energy.
But let's look at this video. So this is one of the videos that is out from the Pentagon. And so here we're able to see that they're trying to,
lock on.
Yeah, trying to lock onto this. Now the spokesperson's talking. But what it is they're trying to, I wonder if I could get a better video, but they have their equipment and they've locked directly onto this object. And this object, I believe, is moving at a considerable rate, or it was even hard. I think they had to manually track it. Or
Yeah, they're trying to just pin it and then lock onto it. Once it's locked on, then the system's able to keep track of it.
They made these a little blurrier on CNN. That's interesting. The videos that I saw were pretty clear.
I mean, it's interesting that in a small number of cases, military aircraft systems processed radio frequency energy associated with UAP sightings. So I don't know if they're trying to like give us some sort of radio frequency to latch onto. I don't know what they got from that RF frequency. It just sounds interesting. I would like to hear that radio frequency. But the what the government is telling us right now, the Pentagon is just like, well, UFOs, UAPs, clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to U.S. national security. They can't catch them. That's number one. They don't know what they are. Or they do, and they're just not telling us. But honestly, with their advanced technology and being able to outmaneuver like fighter jets and everything that are going like ridiculous speeds, if they haven't attacked yet, I don't think they're here to actually attack. I don't know. That's a huge if.
That assumes that what you're seeing is real.
You know,
and so that's where, okay, interesting stuff that they mentioned. They said that,
but the Pentagon actually admits that there are these UFOs.
Well, what's the quickest way to get people to not believe in that and that they're real? Is to say, oh yeah, they're here. We just don't know anything about them. We'll give in. But because we've never seen them before outside
they're
of
also brushing this off really hard. Like, do you feel like this has really been blown out of proportion? They're trying to just sneak this in and make it like, hey, everything's normal.
Well, but they didn't have an entire 60 minutes with the heads of research and people who worked on these programs who spoke in detail about
60 minutes?
That's still on.
People. Millions of people. We maybe not as many young people do.
Not many young people or anything.
So
like
what they're saying is that they confirmed that these weren't foreign powers and that they weren't a threat to us. Well,
how do they know? How do they know? They
Exactly. They're like, we can confirm this isn't Russia. We can confirm this isn't China. But like, how? They're like, we can't identify them. We haven't even gotten close enough to them. But they were able to say, but we can tell you that they are physical objects. They use the terminology physical, which I believe when you questioned it, it's like, oh, well, how do we know it's real? Absolutely. How do we know that it's physical? And so,
I mean, how do I know that the videos that the government gave us aren't doctored? Because the government would have the greatest capability to doctor and create conspiracies in the world.
I mean, it's true, but why would they have hid it for so long? And now finally they're just like, well, everyone has a phone and these things have been coming out more and more frequently. I think it's time for us to finally just tell people with their little tinfoil hats that you're not crazy and that these things actually exist.
Or the government is trying to do, I think the CIA is doing a thought experiment that they've done before and trying to see how many people believe what they're actually seeing. Because all the people who do track UFOs throughout their entire lives, most of those groups, they deny that these things are real. They say this isn't real, this is bullshit.
Really? I would love to see that.
You see a lot of these people talking about that they don't necessarily look at this as like compelling evidence, because they're basically saying like, we've seen them before, and you're saying you don't have any information on them. They either don't believe the government, or they think that the government is lying.
They don't believe that the government.
Why would the government give us that information anyway?
That's because their hands were forced over the past years to be like, hey, we know these UFOs exist. We're going to throw millions of dollars at it and just call them the UAP task force. That's number one, to say like, hey, if anything worthwhile to investigate, we have to throw at least millions at it. And they were thrown millions to investigate this stuff. That's number one. It took years for them to actually bring about this kind of report.
But they only...
According to the government, they spent millions of dollars. And according to you, you say that there's been this big demand, right? So where are all those people now? All the people that were forcing them and saying, we demand answers. Here's the answers. How come I'm not seeing
more people
talking about how disappointing they are?
Well, because they're saying that out of the 144 reports, they only actually analyzed one. and
Wait, so no, I'm not
conclusively
saying about
came to
that.
the reports, which was whack.
What I mean is, like, I have a sneaking suspicion that this isn't real, that it's not actually, that it's not real. The government is doing something or trying to release information improperly or play a game, because they had all these. They went on TV and they did, like, whenever the government just is like, we'll love to give you tons of classified information. We love to do interviews. That's how I know that something's wrong. Like, the government doesn't go ahead and just throw classified information. Like, okay, I guess we'll just give you all of our classified information. We had to have a guy become a traitor to the country to reveal that the government was spying on everything that we do and collecting metadata on all of our devices and all of our communications around the world.
Snowden.
Yeah. So when I think about that, I'm like, then the government's just gonna come out and say, yeah, here's all this information. We don't know anything. Here's a bunch of stuff. Until I see any real compelling evidence, this could just be propaganda.
I mean, it could all be propaganda, but at the same time,
it's crazy that it's even being acknowledged, or that we're even talking about it, or that the Pentagon even had to feel like they had to come out with something. But we are at a minute. Do we want to go on break and continue, or should we save this topic for another time and maybe ask the audience if they want to ask us questions to further this discussion?
Whatever you guys want to do.
Well, lastly, within the last 7 seconds, inconclusive proof of extraterrestrials. That's about it. 3, 2, 1.
Not sure how he did that, but let's come right back and
Oh, we are.
okay. So if you guys have any questions about UFOs, or you guys just really want us to keep dumping on them, let us know. I love watching UFO videos. I think a lot of them could be illusional, and visually, your eyes can lie to you in a 1,000 different ways. And what do they say? Believe nothing that you see, half of what you hear, and all that you know.
None of what you hear and half of what you see. But the thing is, like, when you look at movies that are created and you see the special effects, and you're like, holy shit. And then the government puts out some, like, fuzzy videos, and they're like, those are real.
This is the real stuff. Yeah. I mean, stuff like that. And, like, CGI and created by NASA. And
like, everything we know about this is just, like, the government put out a couple of seconds of tape. And then they put out a report that says, we know nothing. You know nothing more than you knew before, except one thing: U.S. government's on it.
We're here to help.
Taking care of it. To me, that's
red flags.
This document is worthless. There's no information. There's no evidence either way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. It was a propaganda scheme. The government wanted to put this out for some reason that we'll never know. And until there's any real evidence, this does nothing. And that's why nobody cared to talk about it. Because
there's zero effect on us. Zero effect on anybody.
Like, this report is meant to create speculation. And when things are created to create speculation, it's generally because it's a sleight of hand. Everybody, we want you to try to talk about this because we might not want you to pay attention to something else. And odds are we wouldn't even know what that is. In fact, this may have happened as a result of what happened when everybody wanted to storm Area 51. So they were like, fine, let's just throw them a fucking bone. And this is worthless. This is 9 pages of literally saying nothing.
So let me just throw out something ridiculous that I read. You guys ready for this? So this has zero scientific backing behind it. But people are presuming that aliens can just be a evolutionary human from the future. As in the future we have evolved and changed how we look to such a way that when they come back in time, we see them as aliens. And so part of their argument was saying, what if we went back in time to the Neanderthals and how we looked and how we look different to them, they would kind of describe us in a similar way.
How do you deal with the time-breaking paradox of interacting with the species and changing the course of history?
That's a great question. I love that question, actually.
Like, if you went back in time and interacted with the Neanderthals,
I love that question.
There's a chance we could have raised most of humanity.
That's absolutely true.
If
But
you
then
killed a Neanderthal, you could change the entire course of human history.
there's the I mean, time paradoxes
So
are
for those
so
people
heavy.
that-
Like that is such a beautiful topic. I'd love to talk about that. But like honestly, there would be no way for us to know according to any type of time paradox, because we currently live it, experience it in real time, and not like, hey, yesterday elephants were grounded, and then tomorrow we realize that, holy smokes, elephants are no longer grounded, they're flying, someone must have just messed with their past. Like, it's either it's always been for us or it never has been. So if there was any type of time disturbance, we'd never know, and we are currently just accepting whatever reality we're currently in, right?
What do you mean, like the Bernsteins?
Well, are you talking about like the Mandela effect?
Yep.
So the Mandela effect is where people, for example, believe if history was changed, there's little clues and segments. And so the Mandela effect is you yourself think and remember a certain memory in a certain way. And when you go back to research it, you realize that maybe the name, maybe some character, maybe some color image is different. But the weird part is that there's enough people, and internet is beautiful reason for this. There's enough people who agree, hey, you know what? I don't think that was what they were called back then when I was a child. I don't think they look like that. I don't think this, and there's other Mandela. The Mandela effect is Mandela was said to have died, 30 years before he actually died. And so everybody says, I remember, the death of Mandela. And here, he pops up and he's still alive, and then he dies later. It's probably a terrible explanation.
Shared false memory phenomena.
Yeah. And so things like that, I believe, all play into some type of, if you may, and this is a very crude way of saying it, but a time dilation in which time and space was changed, but how we have recognition of it does not follow the rules of time and space and how it would affect us unless it was happening. See, that's the hard part. It'd be the only thing we know. You can't necessarily. The Mandela effect is a very interesting concept.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if aliens were going back in time, and if for some reason we get to an evolutionary state where we want to come back to the past for whatever, I can't imagine why in the future we want to come back unless to, change, manipulate, or control the future. But if they're not interacting with us, or they're not worried about messing with their own future, those are other questions to take into effect as well. And so this is a whole rabbit hole in and of itself.
It could either be one, extraterrestrials, it could be another human civilization, or it could be extra dimensional aliens. So that's the thing. They come from space, they come from another dimension, or they've already been on the world, probably in the sea. I'd love to think of Atlantis, one of my favorite movies growing up. And they're just finally coming out with more advanced technology. So that's there's possibilities there.
Yeah, they already said they're not worried about aliens coming from outer space. They're more worried about interdimensional aliens. And so that was, I want to say it was released from the Pentagon, but I'd rather have the article in front of me that says it. But I remember them saying that, and I was just like, no way, this totally falls into all of my, random conspiracy theories of the what ifs and the, hey, that could be possible, and if this were true, then this would be true. So there is definitely one where if the government is interacting with interdimensional aliens, and that's a very broad term because technically they've already been here, they're just in a different dimension, then...
But we don't even know what those dimensions look like, or how that... We can only theorize what a fourth dimensional object looks like.
We can't. We don't understand other dimensions beyond this. Yeah, absolutely true.
So I don't know.
To say that they can't interact with us, well, the equation said that they can, and so.
Well, the equations that are theoretical.
Whoa! Theory is law. and conspiracy theories.
String theory would be an
conspiracy theories.
idea, except there's one problem. There isn't a universal solution. There isn't.
True. Well, string theory doesn't exist anymore. So
right, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, because M theory was wrong, but
a theory that was never proven was wrong.
There's so many theories
that's
that
an
were never
oxymoron. It's like saying 2 + 2 = 5 was never proven to be true,
and therefore it's wrong. See, still comes back to the same solution.
Now, I have an interesting question.
Yes.
What happens when they actually, if ever it comes about, they say, "Oh, we believe in aliens. Aliens are here. They just made peace with us." What's your first reaction?
Demons.
Bullshit.
They have it on camera. They're all like, "Yeah, we come from like different world," and then or
you're gonna have to do better than the government. Yeah, when the government
extra-dimensional.
just goes onto every TV at once and says, "Hi, we're here with the leader of Gazorp over here, and we just wanted to let you all know that they're peaceful. There are aliens. We were just lying. So go about your day." Horseshit. That are you kidding me? That's never gonna be. That's never gonna be good enough.
So this is where I believe it will take an effect. We're currently destroying our world. If an alien civilization advanced enough to come in and were able to help us, that would be a huge leverage for them to then peacefully interact with our society, because now they look like problem solvers.
I feel like if an advanced species, right, exists out in the universe, there is no benefit to coming to Earth besides one, which is the basis of most of these movies, to mine the resources that the advanced society needs and no longer can produce or find. Because we don't go into the jungle and go and show our great respect for all the animals and love them and their habitats. We burn that shit down. We use those resources and we put those animals in a zoo and we kill the ones we don't need that are in our way. And then we create technologies to deal with the problem of an unstable environment later on. So I don't think any advanced society would come down here and be like, "We're just here to hang out with you guys. Yeah, you're literally tens of thousands of years ahead of us, maybe millions of years ahead of us in terms of evolution, and you're just gonna come hang out with what would be comparatively like bacteria,
ants." Yeah.
I
completely
hung out
agree.
with your backyard ants, Josh. You were just like, "What's up, guys? I'm here to."
So
I'm here to change your life.
I'm here to bring you knowledge.
Here's a cell phone. Here's a cell phone.
That's where I believe they're trying to
Flash.
determine if we're at the level of being able to peacefully interact with them.
There's no way
would
anybody's
they be
looking
able
at us
to
for
We don't
peace.
even know if
cohabitate?
they exist.
They have to
Or
know
if
human
we're
character.
able to
Come on,
cohabitate.
nobody-
We can't even cohabitate
Exactly.
with our own humans.
We don't even know if we can communicate with these with what if we don't even know what that is. We don't know if it's a creature, and we don't know if we can even communicate with it, or if we even possess the
if
ability
they have
to communicate
advanced
with
technology enough, as they do, like if we are able to make our own Google Translate, I promise you, they probably do have a way to learn our language or translate it or make it so that it's able to be translatable. And I don't see that as a problem. Again, even with like, what War of Worlds, how the aliens came about and they were just like, "Oh, they died because of disease." Let me tell you, if we got CRISPR, they got CRISPR. They're able to genetically modify themselves.
Well, that makes an assumption that that's just an advanced version of us. But we look at dolphins, and they're extremely intelligent creatures with their own form of language and their own form of abilities and their own form of organizational things that we still don't fully understand at all.
Actually,
Yeah,
another
They exist on the
species.
same planet as us.
Another
And then- So what I'm
species
saying
is
exactly, so-
squid and octopus.
Right, and there's so many other species. So I guess if you're correct in saying, yeah, if the alien's just like a more advanced version of a humanoid, right, or a Homo erectus on a different
advanced
planet,
species, if
But
they're
if it's
able
but that
to
species might be
understand
completely different.
mathematics and computers and everything like that, to be able to have a spaceship which is probably propelled through like gravitons or anti-gravity or antiparticles, because they're using a sustainable resource that is just
well,
perpetual,
assumes they're using a sustainable resource.
and they're able to do all these ridiculous maneuvers that is just beyond our technological understanding. I believe that they're able to do what we can do and more. That's what it is.
How many languages do you think exist today on Earth that even though we have the ability to eradicate some cancers, we have no idea what they mean? We don't even know what the Mayan calendar was. We
Hey,
still don't know
they
what it
just,
was.
yeah, I know. They just
And
made a
that is
circle,
a
and
primitive
they just
that is a
ended with
primitive
that circle.
species that didn't have any of the technologies we have
Holy
today.
smokes! All right, I just looked it up. Do you guys have your guesses? It's way more than I even thought.
We don't
Like
The number
over
of languages that
2,000
are on Earth.
languages.
Oh, I have no idea.
Like
I'm just
over
guessing there are
1,000
probably thousands.
languages.
Yeah, see,
Thousands.
I was like, yeah, 300. No.
No.
Thousands of
7,000 languages spoken in the
7,000.
world
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, and that's not even the ones that died off. So, I mean, it's
That's
So like
impressive.
I mean I guess it would just be because just be a leap that would have the ability to communicate with us, because it would seem like just because they are more advanced than us, right, doesn't necessarily mean that we would be able to communicate or see eye to eye in any way, shape, or form. Their understanding, right? This is taking a huge assumption that all this stuff exists. If their understanding of how reality works and how resources work and population control works, assuming there even is a sizable population, then you would have to assume that all those things would line up. Otherwise, they might look at us as nothing. We might be food to them, Jeremy.
yeah,
We could literally be just a wild animal. Our intelligence could be so low, right? We can't understand the way dogs talk. To us, it's just the same thing over and over again. Even though to dogs, they can understand by the tones and the voices and the body language, they can understand what's happening. We can communicate with each other and we can understand words, we've created language. But if the gap in knowledge and evolution is so great that it is the same comparable to, let's say, a human to as that alien is to us, then there may be a barrier to understanding that is literally, even though we can't perceive what it is, they are so far advanced than us that we are literally like a sub creature to them. It's not even possible for them to understand. If you look at that gap in knowledge and evolution, it could be very possible. We see that on our own planet. I mean,
I think like I was showing Josh this TV show, Love, Death, Robots.
Oh, so good.
I've seen both seasons. They're really good.
Oh, so good.
Do you guys remember the one where it's like they open the freezer? These new people move into this house. They open the freezer and they go through the life cycle from like, from the beginning and going through, and they have like they're building a society, and then they nuke themselves. They destroy their society. They close the refrigerator, the freezer door. They open it again, and now they're a primitive, high society. And that's where it's just like, okay, what if these aliens actually already went through that kind of understanding, and they would rather just seek knowledge and try to help out the new society?
Yeah, that's where they measure civilizations, and absolutely, everybody's saying is in order for us to get out of civilization 0 into civilization 1, we do have to pass the nuclear phase of us not killing ourselves.
Right, there's the great filters and that we have to pass through. But that assumes, when you say they want to just learn knowledge and help, that assumes that they have the same understanding of wanting knowledge and charity that we do. They've come to help a lowly species because they feel empathy for us. That assumes they have the capability of feeling empathy, because that assumes that they are inherently human. If we judge them based on our understanding, then we create human qualities within them, therefore giving ourselves a false sense of security that we can communicate, because that is just a more advanced version of us, when in reality it could be a completely different thing. If on Earth, right, think about this, if on Earth, then you can watch the show The Expanse, which it talks about this, and it's an interesting idea. If you were on a planet that had a different composite of materials or a different temperature or a different distance, and life was able to form, you could just as easily see organic compounds like steel and iron creating organic life as opposed to carbon, right? Depending on the conditions, you could see an entirely different set of rules for that ecosystem, right? Which could develop an entirely different set of species, which creates an entirely different set of evolution under entirely different sets of conditions. Meaning they could be completely polar opposites. They could be at a level of advancement that allows them to travel through space and time, because they understand, not only do they have an understanding, but they have the ability to use materials and organic compounds, maybe even some that we don't even know exist, in ways that we can't even fathom, which would therefore justify such a huge gap in evolution that we may literally be an ant in terms of our level of intelligence. It would be pointless for a being perhaps that's so different and so much more involved than us to even view it as anything more than a food supply or a planet that has resources that can be absorbed.
Or they see us as that we're getting pretty close to sustainable energy and advancements in technology to the point where they're just like, hey, they're just right there. They just need a little bit more and they could have sustainable energy, and they can now start developing.
Sustainable energy is just the first step. It doesn't solve most of our problems.
It is the first step, but in the I forgot the equation that has
the utilization of our star.
If we're able to just advance technology, it gives us more room to just advance technologically and as a society. So, I mean, we can see it as a good thing, because the more technology comes around, the less people like to argue. That's why in the United States...
No. I completely disagree with that. I think that the creation of social media and technology has created the most divided populace on the planet that has ever existed in the last couple hundred years. Would you say the United States over the last 40 years has become closer as a unit or further as a unit? Think of it this way. Google can give you a web page.
There are more defined lines for people to choose a side. That's what I believe.
I think there's also a greater false knowledge.
Well, think of it this way. Google gives you pages, right? Facebook, they give you customized pages of the things you like to watch, the people you like to listen to, the ideas that you find comforting. You have AIs that are running inside of these companies, giving you customized versions of facts and realities that you want to see. You don't get exposure beyond that unless you go looking for it. Most people are being given a perspective of reality that fits their understanding of reality. We don't even have, Jeremy, we face this very interesting problem today, which is we don't agree on most facts. Almost everybody has their own interpretation of the facts of things that happen, even things that we can see and hear in real time. We have multiple versions of reality of what those facts are, not interpretations, the actual facts of what happened, who did it, when it occurred. We are so divided that if we can't agree on what facts are, how can we ever have unification? Because it doesn't matter what side you're on. If there's no common ground, there's no communication, no valid communication, right? No forward growing communication. If we, as a human race, truly want to get to this level of technological advancement, we need to do it in a stable and sustainable way. And to do that, we need to maximize the efficiency of all the human beings and resources on the planet. When China and the United States raced to Mars, and they both put rovers on there, think of it this way. Two countries just spent, I don't know how many tens of billions of dollars to do that. They did the same thing. It cost twice as much money. If the human race was less divided, we could work together to get to the same goal, pooling resources and only having to do it once. But we have to say, okay, competition breeds technological advancement. But that's only because we don't have the capability of actually working together towards a common goal.
So would you say that with more technology comes the better ability to be peaceful?
The technology
depends on the technology.
Technology is what caused Japan to be blown into.
But still in a primitive race.
Let's change the direction of that question, because it also depends on what people see as power. Greater technology is in weapons right now, and because they're seeing an advancement in trying to get an advantage over the other country, we're seeing more advancements in that direction. But if we're a complete utopian where of course all we wanted was renewable energy, we could have done it next year. Like we could have it done this year. Like it's all a matter of like, where do people see their power or their need for power or their lack of power, and they're going to be supplemented with technology.
And I like the growth of technology. Don't get me wrong. I think the technology is inherently a good thing. Right? Again, I think that most problems spawn from people, and technology doesn't solve the people problem. I don't care how advanced your technology is. Unless your technology is killing off large amounts of society to create a very specified type of society, you are not solving the human problem. So you either have to get the humans to find a way to live together and come together, or you have to kill off most of them and keep only the most valuable to create the best society. There's only two. You can't have we make tons of technology and the people all diverge from each other at the same time, because then you see technology is not helping people. It's making people wealthy and helping people confirm legacies and helping them push the limits of the stars. But how much of today's technology has actually helped the human race and its problems, and how much damage, right, has been caused as a result of the erroneous use of this technology. And I'm not talking about weapons of mass destruction, right? Because for most cases, we haven't used weapons of mass destruction in quite a long time. Okay, we actually just use them to deter each other from using our own weapons of mass destruction. I have more nukes than you, so you shouldn't fire your nukes at me, and I won't fire my nukes at you. And we keep renewing them, blowing them up in the old ordnance up in places we don't need them anymore. But I think that the problem with technology, again, is just if we look at technology's evolution as if we have just lots of technology, we will solve all the problems. Our growth in uses of technology and the growth of the human population has led to most of the current problems that already exist in society, such as overfarming, overgrowing, overfishing. I watched a documentary that explained how the Earth is think of the Earth as like a floating spaceship. And the environment of the Earth, the oceans, that's the life support. All the animals, those are the people who work in that life support system. And as we destroy it and we use up more and more of that land, we're actually killing off the life support system that actually keeps the planet alive as it flies through space to its destination. And what does that mean in this argument? Instability. We create technology and we make these advancements that then cause problems. We have to make new technology to fix. So it's what point are we just creating more and more technology to fix the problems that we've created? Right? Are we fixing new problems, or are we just solving the problems we've made for ourselves?
It's a consumer mindset. And until we move away from gimme, 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 and this is what's best for everybody, we'd all have to become humanitarians. But that's not the case.
We need to find a way to encourage conversation so that people can work together. And we need to find a way. And people always invest in their technologies, and if they have the money and the capital, they will continue to invest and build these great and wonderful things. But I think saying that technology fundamentally, just having more of it, leads to a better society, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that technology does help, because I do also think that too much technology makes a lazy society. And if you have a society that's too lazy and too dependent on that technology, well, then you best hope that technology never fails you. How many people today know how to grow their own food, know how to take care of themselves, feed themselves, build shelters? How many people know how to actually survive? We say you don't need to know that because the system exists. Society is standing, technology is progressing, there is wealth. You don't need to worry about that anymore. And I think that we continually have generation after generation that becomes more and more dependent at earlier and earlier ages on this technology. They're born into, like, you're born at 4 years old and you've got a tablet because you want to play games. You're already in that technology sphere. You're learning how to interact with technology before you're learning how to interact, in some cases, with your own imagination.
It's true. And
in order to build this technology today, we had to do all of that hard evolution to get to this point. So I worry that we will evolve ourselves out of the efficient frontier and actually turn ourselves into a lazier society because we are losing the ability to actually think and do and produce in those ways.
Technology doesn't exist or stay alive without profit.
So, but I gotta go. You guys could keep going on this topic because this can go on for hours. Trust me, it's a nice philosophical topic that we could go on for